Thank you, Christine. So welcome everyone to our second virtual presentation. This is quite exciting for us, a new mode, and one of the real pluses, one of the silver linings of needing to go virtual because of COVID-19 is that we can have people join us from across the province, not just from the Vancouver and the Lower Mainland for the sessions that we would have in public, but actually from across BC, including Vancouver Island, and also some attendees from across Canada, which is very exciting. So I know we are expecting someone joining us from Montreal, from Ottawa, from Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, and so it's really exciting in that regard to be able to extend our learning community outside of the Lower Mainland. So today, I welcome all of you who are joining us online and welcome our exhibitors. We thank our exhibitors very, very much. And in the next few minutes, each of them will have an opportunity to present something of interest to you. So without further ado, let me welcome Jessica Wang and Nolan Deng from Loblaws. They are dietitians and they have something interesting to share with you. So over to you, Jessica and Nolan.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. So we go.
Let's go.
Just, we might look a little bit weird wearing masks, especially since we're presenting to you virtually, but me and Nolan actually work out of different locations. So we wanted to make sure that we were safe, practicing safe physical distancing. And since we can't in this situation, we're wearing masks.
So just to quickly introduce ourselves, I'm Nolan. I'm the in-store dietitian for Loblaws City Market and Your Independent Grocers in Vancouver. And this is Jess, and she covers the Loblaws City Markets in North and West Vancouver. So as in-store dietitians, we get to work with a whole variety of different demographics. One of the main things we do is one-on-one consultations, nutrition consultations, where we provide personalized nutrition advice kind of based on the client's nutritional goals and wellness goals as well. One of the most unique things about our roles is that we also do group workshops where we get to use the store itself kind of as a classroom. Unfortunately, this is something that's on hold for the time being, but we are now starting to offer different virtual webinars, both free and paid ones. So if that's something you guys would be interested in learning more though, feel free to contact us later for a bit more information. And then one of my favorite things about the role is that we get to do a bunch of different nutrition events, things like going to schools or having school trips come in, doing workplace wellness events, or doing different outreach presentations as well. Now, before I pass it on to Jess, I am pleased to announce that we will have a prize draw at the end of our presentation, where 2 lucky participants will be winning a complimentary nutrition consultation and 30-minute follow-up with us. Now, off to Jess.
So Nolan mentioned as in-store dietitians, we are in a unique work environment where we can showcase a lot of work with food. We focus on practical applications of food, and so we really wanted to bring that to light and teach you healthy eating for healthy aging in food demonstration format, which is why we have all these bowls here. So as we go along today, we're going to be highlighting key nutrients that you need to be paying attention to by making a salmon salad. We're going to start it off with calcium. That's our first nutrient. And the reason why it's so important is because it helps with bone health. As we age, our bones break down faster than they can be rebuilt. So we do need to make sure that we get enough calcium each day. Great sources of calcium are dairy, such as yogurt, cheese, and milk. And in this recipe, one of our sources of calcium is yogurt. Other food sources of calcium include dark leafy green vegetables, broccoli, tofu, almonds, and actually canned fish with bones. A lot of people don't realize that you actually can consume the bones in canned fish because it's cooked to such a high temperature that the bones become really soft and brittle and easily digested. And in fact, you do need to consume the bone part of the canned fish in order for you to get enough calcium or in order for you to actually get the benefit of calcium from canned fish. So Nolan's just mixing the canned salmon with the Greek yogurt.
And I'd also suggest to continue the stirring. One of the nutrients I wanted to highlight is vitamin D. So that, of course, helps us absorb the calcium, like in the yogurt, for example. But it also helps our muscles and our immune system and our nerves just function correctly. It's actually quite difficult to get from food just because the amount of sources are very limited compared to a lot of other nutrients. So Health Canada recommends anyone over the age of 50 to take a supplement of 400 IU. That would be the dosage on a daily basis. In terms of what we can get vitamin D from, some other food sources would include milk, fortified milk alternatives like soy milk, oat milk, rice milk, all that sort of stuff, fatty fish, egg yolk, and fortified margarine. One important thing to keep in mind is with things like getting it from canned fish or things like the fortified milk alternatives, the amount of vitamin D can actually vary depending on the product. So it's really important to read the label itself just to double check that it is present. In our case, the canned salmon we're using has 35% of your daily value per 100 grams. So it's a pretty great source.
The next nutrient we'll talk about is protein, which is important for, of course, maintaining your muscle mass, but also helps to maintain good immune health as well and keeps you feeling fuller for a longer time. It's recommended to get about 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight daily, which means that if you're approximately 100 kilograms, you should be aiming for a range between 80 grams to 120 grams of protein each day. Great sources of protein include meat, of course, your beef, chicken, pork, but also fish, which is our main source of protein here in this recipe today. Dairy is included in protein foods, eggs, as well as legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds.
And then the next nutrient I want to showcase is fiber. So this helps us to control our blood sugar, helps us prevent colon cancer, promotes our bowel movements, keeps them regular, and also helps to keep you feeling fuller for longer. So it adds that nice satiety after meals and between meals as well. So generally, men want to aim for about 30 grams of fiber a day, while women want to aim for 21 grams of fiber a day. But in reality, if you're not meeting that amount, every bit helps. So it's just important to get as much fiber as you can from your diet. In terms of sources, fiber basically comes from anything that's like plant-based bulk or roughage. So think fruits and vegetables, beans and lentils, nuts and seeds, and then just a variety of whole grain products. So whole grain cereals, or whole grains themselves, like brown rice or quinoa, or something like oatmeal or a whole grain bread. In this case, we are getting our fiber from whole grain crackers, and these ones are nice and super whole grainy, and they're like 2 grams of fiber per cracker there. So they'll really round out our meal here today.
I'm going to let Nolan actually add in the remainder of the ingredients. So we have here black pepper, there's Dijon mustard, capers, as well as green onion. And these really all help to add good flavor without adding much salt or sodium. And while he does that, I'm going to really wrap up the session by, and all the nutrients that we've talked about, by showcasing here the plate method, plate model, or even Canada's food guide. They're all very similar. It really encourages us to aim for half our meal vegetables, a quarter of our meal consisting of whole grains, and then a quarter of our meal consisting of lean protein. And this is really important because it helps to maximize and optimize our nutrition in each and every one of our meals. If you eat this way, it'll help to really check off all the boxes of the nutrients that you need to ensure that you get as you age. Really bring that all together.
One thing that I also want to showcase isn't displayed in our recipe, but it's also equally as important as all these other nutrients, and that would be keeping yourself well hydrated. So this, of course, helps protect and cushion your joints. It also helps your body absorb different water-soluble nutrients, and it helps us regulate blood pressure as well. As people start to age, they may start to feel less thirsty despite still needing the same amount of fluid. So it's really important just be, keeping tabs on yourself and how much water you are drinking. One other thing to consider is paying attention to the color of your urine. You generally want to aim for something like a pale yellow urine to kind of display that you are keeping yourself nice and hydrated there. So some sources of fluid and hydration, obviously water would be the big one, but you can get it from many other liquids, things like milk, things like herbal teas, soups, and fruits and vegetables as well. Those still count, right? Like if you're having a really juicy watermelon or really juicy fruit, for example, the liquid, the juice that you're getting from that still most certainly counts as hydration.
I just wanted to take a moment to show you our salmon salad here, and we've actually plated it nicely for you. Just as a sample, we have salmon salad on top of a whole grain cracker. So that's how you would enjoy it, either as a snack or as a meal. And we hope that this quick brief session was helpful for you today. But it's really important to, if you have specific nutrition goals that you're working toward, book that one-on-one consultation with us, because as you know, each one of you have unique needs, unique challenges, and unique eating habits. And you would get the most value out of your time with a dietitian when you sit down with us one-on-one, where we have dedicated time just for you so that we can analyze your diet and come up with tailored, unique recommendations just for you. I hope that some of the tips that we talked about were helpful for you today, and some maybe not so relevant. And when you do book that time with us, all of the time is spent just on you. If you're not really sure whether you would benefit from seeing a dietitian and booking that appointment, you can always reach out to each one of us. We can schedule in a free 15-minute consultation where we dive deeper into some of the nutrition goals you might be working toward, and think of a plan that might be well suited for you. At the end of today's presentations, I believe Christine will be sharing a series of handouts with each one of you, one of which will be our handout that includes the salmon salad recipe, a summary of the tips that we talked about today, as well as the nutrients, the top nutrients, and our contact information. So feel free to reach out to either Nolan or I to book that consultation, the free 15-minute consultation, and or if you want to be informed of our ongoing group webinars that we host regularly.
Wonderful. Thank you both. I think we probably have time for one or two quick questions. And so for those of you who are just looking for a bit of help, there is a hands up feature that you can see, and I've put a picture on the screen there for you. And we do have one question in the chat box, and it says, what Chinese dishes are easier to prepare and more nutritionally beneficial for my aging parents?
So right off the bat, the first thing that comes to mind for me is all those different Chinese and Asian greens, things like Chinese broccoli, so like gailan or jielan, things like bok choy, for example. Those are all super nutritious. They fall under the dark leafy greens category that we highlighted. They're actually a great source of calcium as well. Tofu as well captures the whole calcium piece. It captures the protein piece as well. So those are like right off the bat, any Chinese dish involving those will be an excellent thing.
And I would add to that, edamame beans are amazing as well. They're a great source of protein, and they are legumes, so they are high in fiber as well. But the key really is to make sure that your meal is well balanced as well. So not only the vegetable piece and the protein piece, but also whole grain, and ideally half your meal vegetables, a quarter of it protein, and a quarter of it whole grains.
And then one final thing to piggyback off that is we talked about like the plate model, and in a lot of like Asian cooking, food is served family style, and obviously you're not going to have your plate like this and laid out. You're going to be taking pieces from the central dishes back and forth. So that's just a general guideline, right? You want to be aiming for roughly eating half your meal being fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it being the protein, and then a quarter of it being your starch. Once again, you don't actually have to put it on the plate. Just keep that kind of ratio in mind while you are serving yourself, and whoever's in charge of the cooking can try to set the family up for success by preparing food that kind of reflects that ratio.
That's a great question. Yeah. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to move along, and Nolan, you did indicate that you have some prizes, and so we have 2 prize winners to announce today, and for our prize winners, we'll be in touch with you after the call to arrange to get this prize to you. And so thank you both to Nolan, Jessica, and Loblaws for this very lucky winner. And our first is Jan Thompson, and I'll be in touch with you, Jan. And the second is Patrick Tam. So thank you both, and congratulations. I do see that we had a number of other hands up, and we've kind of run out of time here, but if you don't mind emailing your questions when you get the little survey after the session, we'll connect with Jessica and Nolan and get some answers to you that we can include in the email package that comes out after the fact. So thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to make a little transition here to our next speaker, who is Sharon Johnson of the BC Community Response Network. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
So it's my pleasure today to introduce BC Association of Community Response Networks. In BC, oh, I've got to share the webcam, don't I? There we go. In BC, our mandate is under the Adult Guardianship Act. There. Our work is the prevention and awareness of abuse, neglect, and self-neglect of older and vulnerable adults by supporting coordinated community response networks and providing education programs and resources. It's BCCRN's vision to have safe communities where adults are valued, respected, and free from abuse and neglect. Community response networks are diverse groups of concerned citizens and service providers who work together to create a coordinated response to adult abuse, neglect, and self-neglect. The role of a community response network is addressing abuse and neglect. I went too far, sorry. Is addressing abuse and neglect as a community issue that affects everyone. They build awareness, build relationships, provide education about abuse, and advocate for support and services. However, a CRN does not manage individual cases or monitor and supervise designated agencies or provide legal advice. Presently, we have 80 CRNs reaching 232 communities throughout the province of BC, including those that focus on specific communities such as Indigenous, LGBTQ, Chinese, and Francophone. This is a busy time of year around the province. Oops, I did it again. As Monday, June 15th, is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and you will see lots of activities and the color purple as BC Place, Canada Place, Science World, and the Parliament buildings glow in purple. Our CRNs around the province are engaged in all kinds of activities to deliver the message about adult abuse, neglect, and self-neglect of older and vulnerable adults. This year, with the arrival of COVID-19, they have pivoted to virtual presentations, special meal delivery, proclamations to create awareness, educational and encouraging messages inserted into grocery deliveries, and many other creative methods to reach isolated and vulnerable adults. In a time of disaster, seniors and vulnerable adults are those who are at the highest risk and most impacted by abuse. Frauds and scams, social isolation, access to health care, on all forms of violence are exacerbated during times like this. As a bystander, one has a moral responsibility to report abuse. On a typical day, it is suggested that 1 in 5 older Canadians are subject to elder abuse. This includes abuse that is sexual, physical, psychological, and financial, and includes neglect and self-neglect. In this pandemic, we have also seen institutional abuse in seniors' housing or assisted living, hospitals, and care homes. To create awareness and education, BCCRN provides monthly learning events to share information, a monthly newsletter, a provincial website to share resources and mentoring, and a large variety of resource materials in multiple languages. Our 80 local CRNs are supported with current information and trends and are a go-to resource in local communities. We offer programs in community. It's Not Right, Neighbors, Friends, and Family features scenarios of abusive situations and how neighbors, friends, and family members can provide an appropriate response to these various forms of abuse. An alternative program, Gatekeeper, provides similar strategies to bystanders to recognize and respond to abuse. Community members, such as banks, mail delivery, storekeepers, for example, can benefit from this program. Providence Health is one of several designated agencies in the province of BC. Designated agencies also include the health authorities and Community Living BC. The role of these agencies is to investigate reports of abuse, liaise with the public guardian and trustee, report criminal offenses to the police, and obtain court orders and work to help adults manage their situation. It is sometimes necessary to work with police to remove abused adults to safety and health care. We must always remember that all adults should receive the most effective but least intrusive form of support when they are unable to care for themselves or their assets. Until the contrary is demonstrated, every adult is presumed capable of making decisions about personal care, health care, legal matters, and their own financial affairs. They have the right to live at risk as long as their rights do not infringe on others or expose themselves to harm. So please visit us at bccrns.ca and review our resources and be placed on our mailing list. Our programs and materials are provided at no charge for distribution throughout the province in fulfilling our mandate in creating awareness of and prevention of adult abuse, neglect, and self-neglect. And remember, legislation alone does not keep people safe. Communities keep people safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. At this time, you could use your hands up if you have any questions for Sharon, or we can take some questions through the chat box. Sharon, Shirley has a question for you. Shirley, I'm going to unmute you. All right, go ahead.
Sharon, are they volunteers that are helping in the network, or are they all paid people?
It's a combination of the people in the community. So there is a coordinator assigned, quite often appointed by a host agency, and they would gather up the interested people in the community, which could be service providers, it could be a Better at Home coordinator, it could be the RCMP. There would be a table in the community. Or if there's an existing table in the community that's functioning well, we may take a seat at that table. So it's a combination of what works in each community.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and another question is, how do you define self-neglect?
Self-neglect would be, and I go back to the slide that talks about every adult has a choice in how they want to live. So if you found a situation, for example, of hoarding would be a good example, where they're living in a lifestyle they've chosen, but it's a fire hazard. and therefore it could be harmful to the adult or to the neighbors, for example, in case of fire. And in that case, the fire department might be the people that are called upon to respond to that case, those kinds of things. So if it's going to create harm to someone else or to themselves, then it's a case of self-neglect that would be something that needs to be addressed.
Sharon, thank you so much for joining us and for being brave to share your presentation of your side. That was great. We're all learning together. And we're just going to shift gears here to the Family Caregivers of British Columbia. And we'll have some materials from Sharon later on as well when we send the handouts.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so welcome to Licia Rodriguez from Family Caregivers BC in Victoria, and we're pleased to welcome Stacy from Port Moody, if I'm not correct, here on our side of the water, so welcome. And just while I switch slides here, I know we had a physiotherapist with us last session and she gave us some great exercises. So if you need a moment just to wiggle around and stretch, I know we've all been sitting here anxiously, and that'll just give us a moment to focus again on our next presentation. All right, here we go.
All right. I want to thank you all for being here with us this afternoon, and I'm so happy to connect with familiar faces that today's familiar names. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Licia, and I am with Family Caregivers of BC. My colleague Stacy and I will talk about our services, our supports today, and we are so grateful for the opportunity to share with all of you what we are offering for caregivers in BC. So if we can move to the next slide, Christine, that would be good. Yes, thank you. So, you know, most of you probably know that close to 1 in 3 Canadians is an unpaid family caregiver or a friend caregiver, which is a big number. So this translates that into about 8 million Canadians across the country. So Canadian caregivers, it's a big number, and we need to be very aware about this big number and the big support they provide for their family members, their friends, and their community. And our organization, it's been about 30 years, actually this is our 30th year in BC that we're providing supports for family caregivers, for friends, caregivers. And our focus is on their ability to assess and navigate the healthcare system. We help them with creating personal networks, to gain skills, and to have more knowledge and confidence in their caregiver roles. In our organization, Family Caregivers of BC, we encourage caregivers to make a plan and to improve some aspects of their situation. In our work, we focus on 3 major areas. So one of them is the caregiver support. It's also education and also engagement and collaboration. And each one of these pillars, we have a specific support for caregivers. And Stacy is going to talk with you about the definition we offer in terms of what's the definition we use for family caregivers. And she's going to continue talking with you about the services we provide in Family Caregivers of BC. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. Hi, everyone. My name is Stacy Dawes. I am the Provincial Caregiver Engagement Lead at Family Caregivers of BC. As Licia just mentioned, caregiving, it's a big number across Canada. And to give you some insight, there is about over 1 million caregivers within BC provincially. So some of you here today may identify with this role and may identify with this definition that we have here. So through Family Family Caregivers of BC, we define a family caregiver as a family member or friend who provides care and support to someone living with a disease, disability, or frailty due to aging. This role of a family caregiver is mutually determined by the people providing the care and support, as well as those who are receiving it. If we can just slip to the next slide. Thank you. So we do have a number of services available for family and friend unpaid caregivers. We have our biggest area of support is our caregiver support line. This support line is available from 8:30 to 7 p.m. And we did extend our hours just to acknowledge that not all caregivers are available to call throughout the day. Some caregivers out there are working throughout the day, and the only options that they have are in the evening. Other resources and services that we do have is caregiver coaching. And this is more of a one-on-one sort of work plan. So you meet with one of our coaches. You can self-refer through our caregiver support line, and you meet with one of our coaches and develop a plan, an action plan for navigating healthcare or supports for yourself. In addition, we do have virtual support groups that we have moved from being an in-person support group to now this virtual model, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, and we're now experiencing currently, right now. We have a local Greater Victoria, the virtual cafe support group, and we also do have a provincial virtual support group that meets weekly. The provincial support group meets on Wednesdays from 2 to 3:30, and our Victoria Virtual Cafe meets on Thursdays from 2 to 3:30. So just right after this, we're scooting on over to our support group. We also have live and recorded webinars that we have hosted currently and over the years. All of those are posted on our website as well as a blog, and we currently launched a podcast that we have 4 episodes up on our website for you to access. We have a number of articles and help sheets that are extremely useful, and we do develop a quarterly newsletter, which I will put up here for you. Caregiver Connection. And this is a hard copy that could be mailed to you if you subscribe to our organization. So I would like to end by saying that thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. Thank you to you for carving out this time to educate yourself, as well as thank you to all caregivers. For all of the selfless work that you do every day. We just want you to know that you are not alone, and we are here for you, and we hope that you do connect with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Now, we already have a comment in the chat box here. And it says, thanks for your support, Family Caregivers of BC. Appreciate your virtual support group via Zoom on Wednesday afternoons. Can this be expanded to include evening and weekend sessions?
Yes, that is something that we will hopefully be doing in the future. We see the need, we recognize the need, and it's something that we are most definitely working towards.
Yeah, and just a quick note, when you call our number, we also know about all support groups in BC. So sometimes there are programs out there in Prince George or in the interior. We have information about them, and we are more than happy to provide information about these specific support groups within your community. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And I know that there are lots of great resources up on the website, and it's quite easy to access links to everything that's going on in BC. So that's another resource for you.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight as well, through the caregiver support line, you can call, and you may call and not have questions. You don't even know what to ask. You're not even sure what you're looking for. And that is the benefit of reaching out to us, is that we will be able to guide you through all of the resources that we do have, and support you in that way. I know it can be overwhelming going to a website and seeing all of these different help sheets and different resources and navigating a website. So please, by calling us and having those conversations, we would be able to draw on what we know that we have and provide that to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us today. Lovely to have you here. And we're now going to transition to the Alzheimer's Society of BC. And we'll be joined by Avery.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Avery.
Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Avery, and I'm the Provincial Coordinator for Knowledge Mobilization at the Alzheimer's Society of BC. So thank you so much for having me here today. And thank you to all the previous presenters who have shared the important work you're doing. I've learned a lot. It's great to know there's so many supports and resources here in BC. So thank you so much. So the Alzheimer's Society of BC is a charitable organization that supports all British Columbians who are connected to dementia in some way. And even though our in-person programming is suspended temporarily due to the pandemic, I wanted to share some of the supports we have that you might be interested in. And all the information I share will be sent to you after the presentation, including links that you can follow. And some of the information I'm about to share will be part of our game afterwards, so make sure you listen closely. First of all, I wanted to talk about our First Link Dementia Helpline that you can see the number for and the information for down below me. So if you have any questions about Alzheimer's disease or other dementias, we really encourage you to call our First Link Dementia Helpline for information and support. And that's really for anyone with any connection to Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. And so as you can see here, we have service in English as well as Cantonese and Mandarin and Punjabi. And we've just extended the times for our English line to make that more accessible for everyone. We've been focusing on increasing our First Link calls as well to stay in touch with families and continue to provide support at this time. I also wanted to let you all know that we have weekly webinars on a range of topics. They're usually on Wednesdays at 2 p.m., but you can find all of that on our website. So some topics that are coming up in the next few weeks include a local researcher talking about his work on cognitive engagement, a webinar on delusions, hallucinations, and visual mistakes, and a webinar about living safely with dementia. So we have our live webinars and then also recorded webinars. And you can also find webinars in Punjabi in our recordings as well. Additionally, our website has been updated with COVID-related information. That's for people living with dementia, caregivers, and healthcare providers as well. And we continue to update that with different links and resources. So it's a great resource for you to check out. And then also I wanted to mention our quarterly newsletters, Connections and Insight, are out. So this is the spring edition, and that features stories on how people are doing in light of COVID, ways to get active at home, and activities you can do at home. So I noticed Mario Gregorio is in attendance today. So he's our editor for Insight, and he's on the leadership group of people living with dementia. He shares a story about connecting with his neighbors in the time of COVID. So there'll be a link where you can subscribe to receive them either digitally, or if you prefer print copy, they can be mailed to you. And we're now working on our summer issue that should be out in early July. And in those editions, we're focusing on topics like self-care, loneliness, and mental health tips and resources. So if you subscribe now, you can get that next edition in early July. Now that I have some information out of the way, you might be wondering what this shiny thing behind me is. So that's our dementia wheel. We bring it to different events in the community. We've taken it to the PNE, we've taken it to Connects Games, We think of the wheel as a way to test your dementia IQ. So each number here corresponds to a question. And so I can spin it, see what question we land on, and a brave volunteer from the audience can answer the question. And we have some prizes. We have our little brain stress ball, which I found very useful working from home, fidgeting with that a little bit. We have pens, and then we also have our forget-me-not pin, which I'm wearing today. We usually wear it in January to commemorate Alzheimer's Awareness Month, but we wear it at events different times in the year. So, and if you were here last session, don't worry, I've updated the questions that were answered, so we won't get any repeats to keep it fresh. So would anyone like to volunteer? I can spin the wheel for you. You can answer the question and potentially win a prize.
All right, you could use your hands up button. We've got Kim.
Oh, perfect.
So,
okay.
Kim, I will unmute you, and Avery's going to give you your question here. Thank you.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for being a brave guinea pig for us here today.
Give it a whirl. Go, 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 big money.
Big money. Question 8. Okay. All right. Okay. What languages is our First Link Dementia Helpline available in?
Oh, geez. Punjabi, English,
Yeah.
French.
So you got 2 out of 3, which I think is a win. So yes, Punjabi, and then there's a Mandarin and Cantonese line and an English line. But I think that deserves a prize. So Christine will connect with you after.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have another volunteer? We have time for one more. Oh, hang on, there's something coming in the chat. Now we have a question, maybe not a volunteer for the game. Patrick would like to know, how are most families living with dementia dealing with COVID-19 these days?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Patrick. So we've heard different things from different people. So for some people, they're doing okay. You know, we have some people on our leadership group of people living with dementia that I've connected with, and for a lot of them, they're trying new technologies, Zoom, Skype, to stay connected and you know, still be part of their different leadership activities. For some families, it's been a really difficult time with different supports being put on hold, you know, not having that home care that they would generally have. So it's definitely a hard time for families, and we encourage people to call the First Link helpline to kind of troubleshoot some of those issues with us. But yeah, we've heard a range of experiences, but of course a difficult time for many of the families we're connected with. So thank you for asking that.
Awesome. And I believe, Chi, your hand went up. Are you, I'm not sure if you had a question or if you were volunteering for the game. I can unmute you.
For the game?
Okay.
For the game?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. Okay, that was 8 again, so I will go one more.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. True or false? Keeping your mind and body healthy can reduce your risk of developing dementia.
True.
Yes. Do you have anything that you do to stay healthy? Any examples?
Stay healthy, exercise, sleep well, and socialize, and keep up interest.
Yes, those are all amazing, amazing things. Yeah, exactly. So what we say at the Alzheimer's Society is dementia cannot be prevented entirely, but there are ways to reduce your risk. And a lot of the things you talked about, keeping your brain active, continuing to learn new things, staying socially active, like you mentioned, following a healthy diet. We had a great presentation earlier today. Staying physically active and getting adequate sleep. So you nailed it. So you definitely got the prize. Thank you.
All right, and we do have one more. Tom is having some problems, but we're going to do this typing back and forth. So if you want to spin the wheel, I'll put the question in the chat box and he can send us his answer.
Excellent. Okay, here we go. Okay, 7. I thought we were going to land on 8 again, and I was just confused if this wheel is rigged. All right. Okay, so this one is another true or false. And so the question is, true or false, forgetfulness is the only sign of dementia?
Tom says false.
False, yes, that's correct. So we say, you know, forgetfulness can be one sign, but other signs can include, you know, getting lost in familiar places, making questionable purchases, losing interest in things you once enjoyed, and having trouble finding the right words. Those can all be warning signs. So great job, Tom. You also won a prize. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day.